Good evening, good evening, good evening. Come on in the room. I am Tamara L. Welcome to another installation of Just Another Messenger. Now, each episode, we're going to dive deep into the past, examining the philosophies, systems, and decisions that continues to influence our world today. Now, by connecting these historical contexts to contemporary issues, we aim to spark thought provoking conversations and encourage a deeper understanding of how history impacts our current events, culture, and social norms with a little bit of humor along the way. We got to keep that in there and keep it fresh. Now, in this episode, I know there's been a lot going on around the world, but in this episode, episode 11, we are proud of the progress that's being made here at Just Another Messenger. We're going to dive into this controversial TikTok ban /reset. We're going to examine that. We're going to examine the hidden agendas and the legal intricacies behind the headlines. We got to get back. We got to get behind the veil. We got to pull the curtains like the Wizard of Oz. You know, what's behind the veil? We got to get back there, right? Now, let's think about this. Could the straw man theory and jurisdictional loopholes play a role in this global debate? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the creation of that 1933 straw man theory and how it connects to you, the natural person. We're going to get into that. Now, stay tuned as we unpack this legal, political, and social implications of banning one of the world's most popular social media platform that has come on the scene just as little as a couple of years ago, 2017. Now, also concern. Now, are we going to also talk about concerns over national security to questions about freedom, your rights to freedom of speech and control? We're going to explore the deeper narrative shaping of this decision. Now, like I said, let's just get in tune for an insightful discussion that uncovers what this ban could mean and this reset meant is going to mean regarding everything that took place, because it's a ban and a reset for our privacy, power, and the future of digital platforms. Now, let's continue to pray and send out prayers of restoration for those heavily affected by the California fires, the storms in Helen, as well as the fires in Brooklyn, and all the other natural disasters and wars occurring around the world. I mean, it is cold outside. It feels unnatural. You know, it feels the cold weather in the South. I haven't been home, like I was gone for like 15 years. And this cold weather, it just feels a little bit unnatural to me, you know. So let's continue to send out those prayers of restoration for those affected by these natural disasters and wars occurring around the world. Also, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, share, and like to be a part of the conversation each and every week at 8 on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You do not want to miss this. So let's go ahead and get this. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and get into this agenda for the day. Hidden agendas, TikTok ban through the lens of the straw man in law. Let's unpack this today. Now, the disclaimer: the views, opinions, and the thoughts are the protective expression of Tamara L. That's me, for storytelling and educational purposes only, and does not provide statutory counseling for any United States color of law jurisdictional proceeding. But the information is very helpful for your studies. All right, what's going on around the world? As we see on Monday, January the 20th, there was a celebration of Martin Luther King's birthday. The holiday for Martin Luther King Jr. Was celebrated on Monday, as well as the inauguration. It was the 42nd. It was the installment of the 47th United States President of the United States, which is Donald Trump, Donald J. Trump. It was the 47th United States installation. Now people say, well, I saw 60th up there, the 60th inauguration. Yes, it's the 60th inauguration when you add in the Confederate inaugurations that took place within the various states before the centralized governing body of the United States. So that's why that number 60 was up there. Also, we see what's going on around the world. On January 20, you had the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Ceasefire at the same time, the release of hostages. How ironic. But that took place around the world as well. So, and also immigration. Immigration is on the forefront of this installation of Donald J. Trump into the White House through the vote of confidence of the U.S. citizens. Now, that was the first thing on the agenda of immigration, the illegal immigrants, and that is raising some huge debates, as well as, he said he's going to go ahead and get started with rounding up the illegal immigrants, the over 10 million illegal immigrants that came in during the Harris-Biden administration. They said they're going to get that party started and go ahead and get those people sent home to back home to Venezuela and all the other areas that does not have a allied connection with the United States. These are political things that are going on around the world. All right, now we're gonna talk about the bill and the aspect of this TikTok ban. We have to look at it from the perspective, the legal perspective. Remember, we talked about the basis of civilization, dealing with the top pinnacle of the basis of civilization deals with the God's principle or the moral compass for the society. Then we talked about the legal aspect, which is jurisprudence versus jurisprudence versus negative law, which is statute, codes, and ordinance and act. And also, we talked about the language that deals with etymology and semantics, which is the meaning of words versus the true meaning of words versus the meaning of words and semantics, and the status of the people. Always keep that in mind. Now, what we're going to do here, we're going to look at how this ban and the bill of the ban went into its different layers and how it's affecting and will affect, if there's not some changes to take place in the administration, to be able to revoke some of the elements within the act that was approved. Now, let's get into that. I know for some of our people, we're going to go ahead and take you back to school. We're going to go ahead and take you back to grade school. And so this can be unpacked and understood. There are 3 branches of the government. In the United States, there's 3 branches of the government. Let's look at now, we're going to focus on the 2. Well, actually, no, all 3 played a major, that's crazy right there. I just thought about that. All 3 played a major role in this TikTok ban. And we're going to go over that and show you that. We're going to show how, you have the Congress. The Congress is made up of the upper house, which is called upper chamber, which is called the Senate. And the Senate is elected every 6 years. It must be at least 30 years old, must have been a U.S. citizen for at least 9 years, and must have lived in the state status they represent, state status of jurisdiction in which they represent. We're going to get, just another messenger, we get into the etymology of the words and understanding so it can have an application in how to properly move. So we're going to get into that, right? So when I say words, I'm saying these words so you can write them down and go deeper into your understanding and connection of what's going on around the world then and what's continue to go on around the world and how it affects not only you current, it can affect your children. So let's look at that. Now, the House of Representatives is the lower house, right? And that represents 435 representatives elected every 2 years, must be at least 25 years old, must have been a U.S. citizen for at least 7 years, and must have lived in the state they represent. Now, the president is elected every 4 years, and that should have been selected every 4 years through a vote of confidence in the Electoral College, must be at least 35 years old, a U.S. citizen, and must have lived within the United States for at least 14 years. So as you can see, you have within the executive branch, you have also the vice president, and you have the cabinet under the vice president. Now, the role of the vice president, a lot of people do not pay attention to that. The vice president role is very important as well. The vice president is the president of the Senate. So let's just say of the Senate of the Senate chamber in Congress. So if there's a tie that need to be made during the voting process, the vice president is the tiebreaker. I like to keep up with a lot of these things. Like Kamala Harris had like one of the worst records when it came down to the breaking tie. She agreed with everything. She had, which makes it like the worst tie breaking. She did not go against anything that came a tie between the in the Senate. In any elements that came up that required the vice president to step up and break the tie, Kamala Harris just went with a yes on everything, which makes her, she has the worst record as far as the vice president for the Senate, as the president for the Senate. So you can go look that up. You can just Google, you can even Google what was her record, for the Senate as the tiebreaker. She was like 31-0. She just said yes to everything, Now let's look at the judicial system of that. The Supreme Court has 9 justices, the divine 9, and that's esoteric as well as for the judicial system. So nominated by the president and confirmed by a majority Senate vote. So it says Senate. The House does not have anything to do with the Supreme Court. That's the Senate. The upper chamber are the ones who confirms the justices. They hold office as long as they choose to. Now, this is where the problem with the justices, and this is what Donald Trump was talking about. Y'all like my new glasses? I'm so cute. Yes. This is what Donald Trump was talking about when he was talking about setting terms for the justices. Which I think it should be looked at, because here's the thing. We're talking about language here, and you're talking about justices get into what you call political football with the language, which means that a lot of times they're not adjudicating on the jurisprudence of the word. A lot of times they adjudicate on the current meaning, which is the semantics, and they take it out of the content. So that's where you have this political football that goes back and forth with the justices because of the ideologies of the different ones. Some of them are just older and they stay on the jurisprudence, and then you have a lot of the newer justices where they don't adhere a lot of times to the jurisprudence of the word. So that's what happens a lot in that, and you'll see that taking place in this TikTok ban. That's why I said all 3 branches was a part of this TikTok ban reset, and I'm gonna show you that. Now, let's look at the process of this legislative bill process. Now, a bill is a proposal for new legislation or an amendment to an existing law, which means that a lot of times when a legislative bill comes into effect, it's also, they have in there to revoke previous laws that are on the record. Now, they'll say this bill is to revoke or replace this particular bill, like what you're seeing now, the removal of when they brought in the DEA revoked affirmative action. So that's how these things are wrapped up in there. They're layered in there, and a lot of times the society is not even looking at how these things are actually being affected when they're rolling out these different bills. Now the purpose is to suggest, debate, and refine potential laws. Now, a bill is not legally binding. It is still under consideration and must go through various stages of approval. Now, let's talk about their process. Now, it must be introduced, which means you have to have someone who sponsors or introduce that bill, which means they're the writers of that bill. They review it in committees, debate it, and pass it by both houses, and then the legislator, which is the House of Representatives and the House of Senate, before it can proceed over to the executive branch for signing. If it does not go through that process, now it can be stalled out. Like, for instance, the first bill pertaining to TikTok. The first bill that was pertaining to TikTok was House HR 7521. And how you read this is House resolution. That means that this bill was sponsored by a House representative, not by a Senate representative. It was sponsored by a House representative, and it was called Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Application Act. And it was sponsored by Representative Mike Gallagher, Republican out of Wisconsin, 8th District. And he introduced this bill on March the 5th, 2024. And a bill is not final. This is the introduction of the bill. So this is what Mike Gallagher sponsored and introduced to the floor, to Congress. And they made a vote on this bill on March the 13th of 2024. Now, look at the next day when they voted and approved through the House and then went to the Senate. It moved to the upper chamber. So the next day, the Senate received the bill. I don't know how they read that fast, but they received it in the Senate. They read it twice. I mean, they must got some speed readers over there. And they referred it to the Committee of Commerce, Science, and Transportation, which means that the House Resolution 7521 was actually killed at the Senate level. It did not go past the Senate level, which means it did not even get signed off by the president to become law for HR 7521 to become an act for the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Control applications to become an act, to become a law. So it got killed through the committee of the Senate. It didn't go anywhere. So this is the loophole that took place. This is what an act is. An act is a bill that has been approved. See, an act does not become an act until it got approved through the bill process. And I'm going to show you the loophole and the difference between the two, right? And it said by the legislator and signed into law by the appropriate executive authority, which is the president or governor. So this same process works also. It is on federal level and is on the state level. So keep that in mind. Now, the purpose is to enact and enforce legal provisions or policies. Now, it's legally binding and enforceable as a law. So an act become enforceable as a law because it goes through the different chambers, the House and the Senate. But I'm gonna show you what where it kind of, when the bill went into when the first bill of HR 7521 went to the Senate and they referred it to the Committee of Commerce, Science, and Transportation, it got killed. It just stayed dead right there. But the loophole, when it became, in order for it to become an act, I'm gonna show you how they hid it somewhere. They had to hide the bill into other legislative act in order for it to be approved. And they did this by way of Public Law 11850, which was signed by President Biden on April the 24th, 2024. And they hid it up on the Division H, Division H, and Division I, Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Control Application Act. Isn't that the same thing as HR 7521? Well, Tamara, why is that the same? How did they hide that? Let me show you how they had that in there. So once the bill was killed in the Senate through the committee, now what happened is that when it went to the committee, and so now the committee took control of that act. When they put it up under the Public Act, it went through what you call a conference committee. This is the loophole. It went into a conference committee, which makes it move faster from a bill to an act. And this is a temporary bipartisan committee formed by members of both the House of Representatives and the Senate to reconcile the differences between the two chambers' version of a bill. So the House stated that as it went through, like I said, the first bill that was proposed, House Resolution 7521, it went through the House and passed the House. And when it went to the Senate were like, nah, we don't like that. We don't like this bill. There's something funky about this thing. We don't like that. So they say, okay, we're going to do a little workaround. We're going to do a little workaround here, and we're going to slide this somewhere else. Well, they slid it into an existing act that already existed called the Act. And when the chambers get involved, the conference committee get involved, the conference committee, it's taken from the House and the Senate control, and they're the ones who reconcile the differences. And they say, okay, we looked at the differences, and now this is what you have to vote on. This is going to be, and it can't be killed at that point. Now, its primary purpose is to produce a single unified version of the legislation that can be passed by both chambers. So they're like, it's like a referee committee for when the bills are they're playing political football with language and the money. This is the area where it's called show me the money, because when you're talking about committees, you're dealing with. Remember, we said that this bill went to. Let's look back. Remember, we said that that the Senate kicked the bill to Commerce, Science, and Transportation. Well, that's dealing with the money. That's dealing with how this thing gonna be funded. How is it gonna be paid for appropriation? How is this gonna happen? So they couldn't calculate the money to be able to add it to a budget that's already busting from the scene. It got on the budget got on skinny pants, and it's like busting from the seams. So they're like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? So this is how they do it. They stuck it into an act. But before they did that, Donald Trump initially tried to address this through an executive order without appropriations to the people. And he attempted to do that on August the 20th. Now, let's get this clear, honey. Let's get this clear. Because we're talking about the same bird, right? We talk about the same bird. So Trump is not a savior here on this. You know, this is doing business. Keep in mind that United States is a corporation. It is a corporation. They're doing a service. Their job is to do a service for the U.S. citizens. So this is not about protecting the people. This is about protecting the business interests. So let's not get ahead of yourself and don't get excited like Donald Trump saved the day. No. Okay, let's get into it. So in August 2020, he issued an executive order finding that the spread in the United States of mobile applications developed and owned by companies in China continues to threaten the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States. Now, that's when they will sponsor executive order number 13942. Now, I'm going to show you how this executive order is outside of the House and the Senate. This is executive order in which the president has the power to be able to evoke outside of the House and the Senate. This is almost like saying almost like having king power, right? So that's where that dwells at. Now, let's look at this in a little bit more detail. And it says that the president invoked his authority. See, it say the president invoked his authority under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which was an act that's already appropriated, and which is 50 USC subsection 1701. Let's look at that. And it say that, now let's scroll down to the second bullet. It said the secretary published at least a list of prohibited transaction in September 2020, but federal courts enjoined the prohibitions before they took effect, finding that they exceeded the executive branch authority under IEEPA, which is the International Emergency Economic Power. So basically, in other words, they said, Trump, you we don't like the way you overstep your powers on this, looking into this business venture. You circumvented Congress, and there, the money is not lining up to appropriate against the people. So they said no. So this is, like I said, this is when the judicial branch stepped in and they tried to invoke that he overstepped his authority as the president to evoke the executive order under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. So they said, now let's look and see what this executive order reads. It reads that any authority granted to the president by Section 1702 of this title may be exercised to deal with any unusual and extraordinary threat. Isn't that the same thing they've been talking about the whole time? Okay. Which has its source in whole or substantial part outside the United States to the national security, foreign policy, or the economy of the United States if the president declares a national emergency with respect to such threat. So Trump was like, this TikTok, this bite dance, we don't like the fact that China has the control over the data. They can use the data. And they can trust me, it wasn't about you and the twerking on the TikTok and being able to sell on TikTok shop. It's about your data. That's what it's about. It's about your data. And they can take that data and manipulate it, and they have so much control over that. So we're going to get into what that's truly about. And it said the authorities granted to the president by this Section 1702 of this title may only be exercised to deal with an unusual and extraordinary threat with respect to which a national emergency has been declared for the purpose of this chapter and may not be exercised for any other purpose. So all of a sudden, the justices said, we don't see a legal threat. We don't see a legal threat. So we're going to declare your executive order to be unconstitutional. So now we're going to strap your executive order because we don't see a threat with TikTok. We don't see a threat. They didn't see a threat in 2020, but they saw the threat. Let's see how they saw the threat. Let's look at how they saw the threat. Joe Biden came in Joe Biden came in at the 11th hour when he finally woke up, when he about to get ready and roll on up out of here with the Foreign Adversary Control Application Act under Joseph Biden, which is in hidden up on the Public Law 118-50. And let's look what it reads. This is legislation aimed at addressing concerns about the potential risks posed by mobile and software applications. Is that the same thing that Trump said? Operated or controlled by foreign adversaries. Sound like the same language to me that 4 years before the justices said there's not a threat. There's not a threat to the data in China. There's no there there. There's no there there. And it said, in Joe Biden said its primary focus is to safeguard national security. There we go. Data privacy, and digital infrastructure by regulating or restricting access to such applications within the United States. Now, then we talk about jurisdiction. We talked about jurisdiction in a lot of previous of the episodes before this. We talked about the difference between territory and jurisdiction. So this is talking about jurisdiction control, right? All right. It's war. Oh, good God. What it is good for? Absolutely nothing. Say it again. This is what you call digital war, people. This is digital war. This is digital war at its finest. This is digital war. This is digital war, my people. And let's do this while we really get into the meat of that. Now, don't forget to donate. Donate to our Cash App. Please help support the channel. Before we continue forward, please, just some housekeeping rules. Donate on Cash App at $ at Just Another Messenger to help keep this channel going and flowing. And we're very happy regarding the number of viewers that we're increasing to. We're so happy. Continue to hit that like, share, subscribe button on YouTube at Just Another Messenger so we can continue to get our numbers up. We're doing this in an organic way. We're not buying subscribers or viewerships and all. I know a lot of that is done. We're going to take this organic approach to Just Another Messenger, so we can have people out there that understands the message, they understand the what's going on, and we can all collectively come together to be able to make a difference. Now, follow us on X at JAM underscore 404 podcast. And you know, when TikTok came back up, guess what? When I say when in Rome, do what the Romans do. So you can also follow us on TikTok at Just Another Messenger. And if you want to reach us, please contact us via email at justanothermessenger@gmail.com. I'm going to keep this Cash App up. I would like to currently thank all our sponsors and supporters who have supported us throughout these entire episodes that we just got started in October. We're so happy about the direction that we're going now. Now, Malik Day, Islam, Lords and Nobles, Rosalind, peace and greetings. Great seeing you again. Great seeing you again as well. I'm glad to be back here. I'm excited about, you know, the work that's being done and the information that's going out. So yes, please continue. Help us get those numbers up. Please like, share, and subscribe so we can get this information out there. All right, like I said, people, we are at a digital war. Yes, let's look at this digital war right here. Let's look at this digital war that's going on. All right, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this digital war right here. Data jurisdiction. Let's talk about data jurisdiction right here. When we talk about jurisdiction, let's look at the setup of TikTok. TikTok is operated in the United States by TikTok Inc. Incorporated. So we say, an American company incorporated and headquartered in California. So there's two layers to this thing here we got going on. There's two layers to TikTok. So you have the headquarters of TikTok, which is a company headquartered in California. But let's see what TikTok did here. TikTok is also ultimate parent company. So TikTok is not the parent company. TikTok is a subsidiary of the parent company of ByteDance, which is a privately held company that has operation in China. That's another way of saying it's a shell company. The parent company is a shell company. Very dangerous. Lack of responsibility on shell companies is sometimes it's hard to find who's the owners of these shell companies. And so the parent company is ByteDance, and ByteDance owns now this is where it all gets sticky at. ByteDance owns TikTok's proprietary algorithm, which is developed and maintained in China. The company is also responsible for developing portions of the source code that runs the TikTok platform. ByteDance is subject to Chinese laws. Now, this is where it really gets really interesting around here. It is subject to Chinese laws, not the United States, Chinese laws that require it to assist or cooperate with the Chinese government's intelligence work. So that's like saying this is an application such as Facebook is subject to United States law. Let's read this in another way. Facebook is subject to the United States laws that require it to assist in cooperation with the Central Intelligence Bureau, the CIA, the intelligence work. We can read that both ways too when talking about subject to. So ByteDance is subject to the Chinese government's intelligence work and to ensure that the Chinese government has the power to access and control private data the company holds. All right. So that's where it became sticky at. But let's look at this data war that's going on right here. Now, TikTok was just recently launched. This is like a baby company, but they're doing just great numbers. They're doing great numbers, which means they're securing a lot of data within this short period of time. And it caught the attention of some of the businessmen. It caught their eye, caught their attention. So great job, U.S. citizens. You're helping to make, other companies very profitable and rich. Now, a lot of people has become successful off TikTok, but here's the thing: it's a platform that with limited controls for an entrepreneur, for a business owner. That should not be the only model of a business, TikTok, because as you can see, they were able to shut your TikTok down at their will and did a reset, move it from one platform to another. So let's look at this data war. TikTok was launched on in 2017. They currently, as of today, January 2025, they have 170 million users, 5.5 billion videos, and they're viewed 13 trillion times daily. That's a lot of viewing. Now let's look at YouTube. Launch 2005, 2.7 billion users, 720,000 videos uploaded hourly, viewed 1 billion per day. Think about something viewed 13 trillion times versus viewed 1 billion. Come on now, they got the attention. They got the attention of a company. Say, oh, they're gonna run us out of business. Now look at Facebook, launched 2004, 3.05 billion users, viewed 4 billion videos daily. Just killing both of those conglomerate, YouTube and Facebook. Now, if you're into forecasting, this is what you got to understand business. If you're into forecasting, you will see that TikTok was on the verge of outpacing both of these companies. If you know how to do forecasting, and I started to do that, but it was taking a long time. And when I was working on the numbers, if you did a forecast of the time period, so these both of these companies' inception is like, what's that, 12 years and 13 years earlier before TikTok. But look at its numbers. So if you put a 12-year projection to stay on board with its current numbers, oh man, it was going to run YouTube and Facebook flat out of business. Just like when remember when Redbox came in and ran Blockbuster out of business, it was going to be. And you remember when, what was that, Amazon came in and just crushed the stores like Toys R Us. I don't want to grow up, I'm a Toys R Us kid. Crushed those storefronts. You remember we used to have Radio Shack. Amazon crushed Radio Shack. Amazon crushed Toys R Us. Amazon crushed a lot of these restaurants. Amazon crushed them, and then you got Uber that came in and just wiped out the taxi business and so we're talking about that taking place. So TikTok was becoming a major business threat to YouTube and Facebook. Now, if I would have to say, I would say that the business partner that were able to take probably more of a 51% share of ownership with TikTok, I don't think it was YouTube. I would say more so it's probably Facebook, and they'll probably let us know, oh yeah, Facebook ended up being the joining partner. That was already in the works, and I'm gonna show you how that was already in the works on January the 19th, 18th. That was already going on, because the 19th was not a ban. It was I work in IT, right? I work in IT. And as an IT person, when you're doing conversions, I remember I worked at a hospital years ago. And when I worked in the hospital, I worked in human resources information technology, right? And so working into that field, I mean, I'm telling my age. Now, we went through like a 5-year behind the scene conversion of data from paper to paperless. Now, we didn't need, because it was DOS based, because at that time it was going from DOS based to web based C++. We didn't have to dump a system. We didn't have to reset a system. We didn't have to have everyone on offline, such as, we didn't have the hospital systems attached to it to be able to take them offline, to be able to convert over to a new model, because DOS it's a different reading language compared to C++. And then now you have OAS, right? Which is a different platform. But now that the platforms are now web-based in alignment, that reset on Sunday, everybody had to be offline. So that's why they had to take that. It had to have the appearance of everyone. It was the band taking place on the 19th. They had to reset. That was a time to reset and move the data over from one server platform to another. If I had to guess, just as an IT professional, that's what took place on Sunday. It was just conversion of the system that took place on Sunday. If I had to be a gambling person and guess that now, I would say that's what took place on Sunday. So people don't get too excited about TikTok returning back, because TikTok gonna bite you in your pockets. It's gonna bite you in your pockets. Yeah, each and every, it's gonna bite us in the pockets. Let me show you how. Now look at this. This is why I say this is data war. They hit the law under current foreign war expenditures through Public Law 118-50. Now let's look at that law. Public Law 118-50. Now, if you understand public law and you understand a war package law, this is a war package law. As you can see, look at Division A. This is money for Israel security. This is money for Ukraine security. This is money for Indo-Pacific security. This is money for 21st Century Peace through Strength Act. This is the war on the fentanyl Act. This is for rebuilding economic prosperity and opportunity for Ukraine Act. And Division G, other matters. I read the other matters. Other matters deals with Russia. It deals with if Russia don't pay us back for destroying Ukraine, we're gonna steal the assets. I don't know. You know, it's like funding both sides of the war. I sat down, and this is why a lot of time it takes me. See, I don't rush the process. This is why it takes me a week to bring this information forth, because I read the information and I want to kind of help fast track other people that read it. Yes, I work. So, and I'm doing a lot of things. I stay up like last night. I didn't go to sleep. I was up 5 a.m. trying to clear this through. So let's look at that. So like I said, G was saying, okay, Russia, you bombed Ukraine. If you don't give us our money back, we're going to take your assets. We're going to take any assets that's over in the Ukraine border. And that's what Division G read. Division A, look at that. Look where they parked it at. Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Control Application Act. Look, I said formerly HR 7521. This is the loophole, people. Division I, Protecting Americans' Data from Foreign Adversaries Act of 2024. This is the loophole. They put it into a war package. Now look at all the other divisions. SHIP Act, Fight Crime Act, MASA Act, Hamas and other. Oh, so look at this. Hamas and other Palestinian terrorist group international finance and prevention act. So basically, what they're saying here, this act financed both sides of the war. It finances Ukraine, it financed Israel, it financed Russia, it financed all the wars that's taking place. It's financing all that. All right, it's financing the war on drugs. So that's what this act is. So they took a data war. They took a data war and put it under a foreign war expenditures act that's taking place at this time. That's where the hidden agenda is at right here. Now, this hidden agenda, keep in mind, people, that the hidden agenda is, I'm going to show you, it's layered into the taxation, and this is how it will continue to be it will continue to be a noose. It will continue to be a noose around the people's neck to be able to, for the repayment of these wars. That's why I said, don't get so happy. Don't get so happy about TikTok coming back, because TikTok gonna take out your pocket. It's gonna take out your pocket. You think the groceries out there. I went to the grocery store the other day, and I was passing by the section that said eggs $5.68. I said, good God Almighty, what in the world is going on here? Yeah, TikTok is gonna suck the living daylights out of the American people, because where they parked it at, they parked it up under war expenditures, which means the people is going to pay for that. The people's going to pay to have TikTok. You're going to pay to have TikTok. You're going to pay to twerk, baby. Y'all better be twerking good. Now, this is how wars are financed. Wars often require significant funding, and central banks play a critical role in providing governments with loans to finance military efforts. The United States government borrows money from the Federal Reserve and other entities to fund its operation, including military expenditures. Now, it does not, now there's a double-fold layer in that. Now, who is this Federal Reserve that is borrowing from? It's the International Monetary Fund. And layer it, and then you're going to couple that with the central banking system, and then you're going to couple that with we're going to get into another government industry, that agency that just like they turn on the damn the printing machine and just have a good time with printing up the T-bonds in the paper, in the financial paper, and they ship it on up out of here. But who's paying for that? Who is paying for TikTok to stay operational? You and I. TikTok is going to kill the American people. Let me show you that. I know. See what I'm saying? TikTok is going to TikTok you out. Boy, you're going to be tick crazy. Now, look at this. Foreign Military Financing Program. This is another Public Law 117-103, loans financed by the Federal Financing Bank. Now, this Federal Financing Bank is a government corporation established in 1973 under the Federal Financing Bank Act of 1973. I was just born, so which makes this act 51 years. I'm sorry. It is housed within the U.S. Department of Treasury. So the Treasury, another entity, the Treasury, which is an agency, the Treasury, the U.S. Treasury, which is an agency, borrows money to be able to finance the acts and the wars. Now, the trick part of this, and this is where the people, we have to look at these things, because we have to look at this a lot clearer. We have to look at this with clear eyes. Like I just got new glasses, right? And they say, well, Tamara, you need progressive. I'm like, what y'all trying to say? I'm blind now? The girl don't ain't blind. It was like, no, we just want to help you see a little better. So I just want to help you see a little better, right? So we have to look at that. I want everyone to go back and look at Chevron deference. And the Chevron deference that just got overturned last summer, June of 2024. The Chevron deference, like what authority does these agencies have to be able to borrow and make decisions on behalf of the U.S. citizens? So the Chevron deference was overturned. So, but however, the U.S. Treasury is borrowing money. All right. And so it plays a significant role in financing. It plays a significant role in financing federally assisted borrowed programs. It funds the war. The Treasury funds the war. They print the T-bills. The FFB provides loans to federal agents. And the federal agents is the Secretary of Treasury, government corporations and entities with federal guarantees. Like it's like what they say, robbing Peter to pay Paul. This is one of those aspects of robbing Peter to pay Paul. And then when you got Robin Hood came and tried to steal the money and help, but they killed Robin Hood. Yeah, that's how they do. That's how they go. All right, let's look at this. The number one, how interest rates on federal loans are funded. They're funded through taxation. Income tax paid by individuals and corporations, payroll taxes collected for programs like Social Security and Medicare, excise taxes imposed on specific goods and services. Other taxes includes tariffs, estate, and taxes. A portion of the federal budget is allocated to servicing the national debt, which include paying interest on Treasury security. Then I say the taxes, the people that are being taxed to the hip, the people that are being taxed to the hip on your income tax on your payroll tax, on your exercise tax, and other tax. Tax, 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 tax. Good Lord. Now the taxation and went it didn't ran amok because taxes was originally started for wartime during World War I. That's when the taxation started for World War II, and they just took advantage of this taxation system like none other before. Now let's look at that. Number two, how interest payments on federal loans are funded. When tax revenue is not enough to meet federal spending needs, including debt interest payments, the government borrows money by issuing treasury securities, which is called T-bonds, which is municipal bonds on it's like a bond on certain asset, like let's put a bond on this building. That's why a lot of the assets of the United States are no longer owned by the United States because of them bonds they had to sell off. Yeah. Selling of America. That may be another one. Now, the key process issuing treasury security. U.S. Treasury sells bonds, notes, and bills to investors, including individuals, corporations, foreign governments, and central banks. That's what I said. I wish the people get involved because guess what? You can buy these things too. You can go ahead and buy up these treasury bonds and start taking back. Hey. All right. These securities are essentially loans to the government with the promise of repayments plus interest over a specified time. Borrowing to pay interest. If the government doesn't collect enough taxes to cover its obligation, remember, I said you can look it up. Taxation is a voluntary system. Federal income tax reporting is a voluntary system. So if less people realize that I ain't got to volunteer, well, I don't have to volunteer. So when that started happening and there's not enough money being collected, oh, there's trouble, Chi-town. All right, this creates a cycle of borrowing to pay borrowing, leading to an accumulation of national debt. You can go Google what is the national debt. The GDP has exceeded the gross domestic product, has exceeded the national debt, which means the United States is bankrupt once again. All right. Now, this is where the 16th Amendment, the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source is derived without appropriation, which means we don't have to go through Congress. Whenever we want to get into another war, we do not have to go through appropriations for additional taxation, for the additional collection of taxation. We just going to keep the taxation going. So what are you saying there, Tamara? We have been under War Power Banking Act since 1933. Never came out of it. Because the taxation still exists that's where in inception after the bankruptcy of 1933, after the stock market crash, and the income tax was introduced. So they ushered in the 16th Amendment to say, hey, we can continue to tax, which means you never came out of war. That means that America has been in war since 1933 and still in war as of today. Now we're in a data war, information technology war, Star Wars, baby. Among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. Yeah. We ain't got to count heads. You're going to pay them taxes. All right. Meet your straw man. What is that? Well, when the meet your straw man. We're going to meet your straw man. When the bankruptcy occurred in 1933, they got to find a way to finance. That's why the natural person, they have to find a way to finance this war. Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. Maybe talking too fast. They have to find a way. Sorry. They have to find a way to finance this war. So how do they do that? How do they how could they create a way, a model? So that's where the straw man theory came into effect. We have to find a way to keep a track of the working people. So we have to create a registry. We have to create a system for tracking because there wasn't a system to be able to track the labor of the people. So their creation of the straw man. And what the straw man did is that once people after 1933, because there weren't birth certificates before 1933, once after the Bankruptcy Act and they came in, they had to pledge the people. They pledged the people through the natural person, through the creation of the birth certificate, to have the registry to monitor the people and to create a legal fiction. Let's get into it. Meet the straw man. Now, straw man was created when the individual birth is registered via the birth certificate. Now, when someone was born from 1933 up until today, you have what you call, when someone give birth in the hospitaler, which is the military installation facility. When they give birth into that facility, you have a nurse that will come in there when the mother is in there, and the mother is taking a role in this process too, unknowingly. The mother is taking this role by unknowingly. They're taking this role in this process. They don't know they're a part of this game of registration. As being an informant to the process of registration. The mothers have been unaware of this, and a lot of mothers are still unaware of this today. If they are utilizing the hospital for the birthing process, if they're using that method, even if you're using a doula and you now go fill out what you call certificate of live birth. So once you fill out a certificate of live birth, you're now converting the natural person over to a legal entity. Let's look at this. All right. So you have the natural person, which is the living, breathing human being that came through the birth canal of the womb man, the woman. All right. That now after the creation, after the mother fills out what you call the certificate of live birth and gives to the nurse, both informants now informs the state of, which is the corporation, that we have the creation of a legal entity. Let's look at this, what happened. Also, another aspect, once you say, oh, my business, I'm going to take the name of my business, and I'm going to, in the work that I do, and I'm going to register my business and incorporate it into the state of, you transfer your essence to the responsibility, now the ownership of the state of. And that's how the state of was able to shut your business down during the inoculation period. You know what I'm saying? In which he just got a little pardon because they said there was no there there. There was no there with that. So I want a part of that. All right, here we go. Now, birth certificate registration. You see it says certificate of live birth, and they take the soul of the baby feet, and now the soul shows that this is the registration that birth parents registered their child with the state, resulting in the issue of birth certificate. This document transfers the child natural rights to the state, creating a straw man entity, which is now the legal entity. Now, certificate is a financial instrument. The birth certificate has a monetary value and is linked to bonds and accounts traded on stock markets. Let's look at that. Then they have the creation of the Social Security number. They say, well, wait a minute. We got the birth certificate, but if they work, how are we going to keep up and track their working, their energy, their currency? How are we going to keep up with the currency, the tracking of the currency? So now the parents go, going down to Social Security Administration. I'm going to get my baby a Social Security card so my baby can go to school. They can go to the Rockefeller education school system. My baby can get inoculated, because I don't trust my baby immune system. So let me go down here and get Social Security number. So you take they give you now, after you fill out the living certificate of live birth, they send you in the mail what's called a birth certificate, which is a legal entity, and you take the legal entity and say, I need a number for this entity. Just like when you incorporate your business, in the state of, you say, oh, I need an EIN for my legal entity to transact commerce. Same thing. Same thing. All right. So the Social Security now for the legal entity from the natural person is a numerical identifier assigned to the U.S. resident. Did I say American resident? Did I say American resident? No. I didn't say American resident. Now we're going to learn the difference between an American and a U.S. citizen. All right. It's a numerical identifier assigned to U.S. residents to track income and determine benefits. Now, let's look at the definition of a resident and a person. Now, the term United States residence means an individual who is a United States citizen. It doesn't say an individual who is an American citizen. It says you are a United States citizen or a resident alien and does not have a tax home as defined in a foreign country, or is a non-resident alien and has a tax home as so defined in the United States. Now we're talking about jurisdiction here. Now, and any corporation trust. Now check out this one. This one is new. Because I have language. I should have showed that. Dang it. I have language where this last one, the double I, you can see somebody wasn't paying attention because they put two, then they put two again. Then it should have been like 2-1. And so that's how you know that one is new. That last one, look how I say, and any corporation, trust. Now that wasn't in there. Trust or estate, which is a United States person. Now, like I told you, that's new. Now, you go look up the definition of a person. It's a person, a legal entity, and a person, a corporation. Now they're throwing in trust because people were jumping from the legal entity of the all caps, and people were jumping into trust laws and separating themselves. And then they tried to come in with the BOI, talking about, you got to let us know who own these trusts. You got to let us know who own these EIN number. No, you don't. So then estates. Now people is going into what you call unincorporated association, and they're operating through their estate. So all of a sudden, in IRS code, they added this last part: corporation, trust, or estate, which is United States person. So their person is a legal entity. It's not a natural person. It's a legal entity. Sorry, excuse me. While a natural person describes an actual human being, artificial person describes, look, here it is. Artificial person describes a partnership, corporation, or some other entity that has been provided with legal personhood by statute. So which means remember we talking about jurisdiction? Okay, so remember we talked about ByteDance and TikTok. They said, okay, the headquarters is in California, but ByteDance jurisdiction that maintains the algorithm, that's in China. And China is a foreign adversary to the United States, China. So which means it's another entity. That's a legal entity, which is outside the United States. All right. Now, TikTok reset. TikTok back, y'all. TikTok back. I wish I had some music for this. TikTok back, y'all. TikTok on where? Yeah, I'm telling you. people better make some noise about this thing. Better scream and holler. You better call your the representative, your senators, House of Representatives, because this thing is going to suck the daylights out of the people's pocket. Being that they moved it into a war package for appropriation, that and everyone in a war package has to be paid back by the people. That thing gonna suck. That we already guilt to the hip with trying to pay for gas, food, housing, everything. That TikTok is going to kill the U.S. citizen people. It's gonna be the death. And let's look at this. When that took that restoration, if you go and look at the public law, within that public law, the president had what you call the certification of public law period, a clause within there. And this how they were able to say, we're working this out, turn this back on. All right. So they said an extension. They said with respect. Now, Section 3 said with respect to a foreign adversary control application, the president may grant a one-time extension of not more than 90 days with respect. So which means that technically Friday, which was what, the 18th, Biden presidency ended the 17th, that Friday. Trump presidency started that Saturday, the 18th, which means that Trump was the one who can make the call for the extension. So that's how he was able to exercise the clause on the extension. I just want you to see what you're looking at right here. They're not going to say that on the news. They don't give a hoot. Now, may grant a one-time extension of not more than 90 days with respect to the date of which this subsection would otherwise apply to such application pursuant to paragraph. Now, if the president certifies that, now let's look at this. If the president certifies that a path to execute a qualified divestiture. Are we reading this? Are we reading this right? A path to executing a qualified divestiture. That means diversification of ownership. Divestiture. That means control. That means that is there a contract on the table that's being worked out? Whereas a United States corporation has 51 majority ownership in negotiation. That's what that means. It said a path to execute a qualified divestiture has been identified. Have you identified a buyer? This was already in the works. So don't try to pretend like Trump is some type of savior. This was already going on behind the scenes. They was already sitting down and saying, okay, how much money you got, Facebook, Zuckerberg? How much money you got? We need you to get to this number. Can you meet this number, Zuck? Okay, YouTube, what you got on the table? And I'm pretty sure they probably had what you call a request for proposal. They probably had blind bid. They probably had a blind bid process of who offered the most, who was able to meet the expenditure costs of other divestiture to take in 51. And here's the kicker. You have to be able to also have the server capacity. Now, I'm telling you that I've been around some crash systems before. I've been around some crash systems before. And let me tell you, I done had some sleeps and nights with some crash systems. But when them things crash, boy, it clench your butt. So there had to be a server in place to move that data from the control, whatever server that ByteDance is using in China. So you're talking about not over conversion of language. You talking about that language, that data could have been translated over into China, like your name is translated over to China. So now they have to retranslate it over and then move that data over to a US server. A company had to be able to have that capacity to move that 170 million users, 5.5 million videos, 13 they had to be able to move that data over to the new server. Hear what I'm saying now? This shit was already in the works now. So it's a B, evidence of significant progress. When I read this, I mean, I'm telling you, I just laughed when I read this because I mean, being in IT, I know how it reads. Evidence of significant progress towards execute such qualified diversion has been produced with respect to such application. Do you have the money and do you have the server capacity? And 3, there are in place the relevant binding legal agreements to enable execution of such qualified diversion during the period of. They said now, we don't want to hear you got to get your money up. We don't want to hear that you got to put your big boy drawers on. You got to divest. You got to sell off some stuff, some assets, and all that. We don't want to hear none of that. Show me the money. You had to put the money on the table. You had to have the money right there ready to rock and roll to be able to get that sale done. And that's how TikTok was able to come back up on Sunday, y'all. I'm just sorry to tell y'all, there wasn't nothing special about that. Look at the applicability of law, data and information portability to alternative application. It say before the date of which a prohibition under subsection, look at it say, A, applies to a foreign adversary control application. The entity that owns or controls such application shall provide, upon request by a user of such application within the land or maritime borders of the United States, to such user all the available data related to the account of such user with respect to such application. Such data shall be provided in a machine readable format, which means y'all got to get that stuff out of China, and shall include any data maintained by such application with respect to the account of such user, including content, including posts, photos, and videos, and all other account information. This is what you call conversion. They said that you got to be who got the server. You may got the money, but if you ain't got the server, if you talking about you got to buy the server to be able to, for portability, you can't even be in the running to buy. We got to get this data moved quick in order to save this business, because this business is about to make, we didn't know this business was so profitable. We didn't know this business is going to make the United States a lot of money. Shmoney, yes. All right, now look what division, this is what division 8 of the public law read, enforcement civil penalties. Now, this is where they hide this at. It's a section 2, D, enforcement civil penalties. Foreign adversary control application violation, an entity that violates. Now, this is what they're saying. It's subject to pay in civil penalty in an amount not to exceed the amount that results from multiplying. So, you know, when the people were saying, I'll just go over to Red Note. China may let you sign up on the Red Note, but China was going to get banged out for all the users they accepted on the Red Note. And this is how they was going to get banged out, because they put it up on the War Power Act, and the War Power Act triggered for the, who is that? For the Secretary of Treasury to be able to investigate. Now the United States determined to have access, maintain, or updated a foreign adversary control application as a result of such violation. So, which means that they was forming a body to be able to bang China out for accepting the people over to Red Note. And it's saying entity that violates subsection B shall be subject to pay a civil penalty in an amount not to exceed that results from multiplying $500 by the number of users. Now, remember, they had how many users? 1.7 million users times $500. China wasn't going to pay that fine. They weren't going to pay that fine. And look at this. Now, this is the trick bag right here. Division 8. Section 2, enforcement internet hosting service. So, you know, this is now including also internet hosting service. So let's just say VPNs. This is an attack now on VPNs. Public Law 11850 is also now an attack on VPN. So if you're paying for a VPN and their hosting services in a foreign adversary company, you're not no longer be able to be able to have that VPN, or those companies will now, if it's understood that a lot of people are using these VPNs, companies that are hosted on the servers of any company that's a foreign adversary company, they're going to face a fine by the United States because of this public law act. So now you're not going to be able to hide your emails and data. That's what this section represents. You're not going to be able to hide your email or data through the VPN if it's under the server of a foreign adversary company. Now, I know one of the ones I use, which is Proton Mail. Proton Mail is it's under the server of Switzerland. So everybody go run and get this Proton. That is neutral zone, and they still don't have access to Switzerland servers. So go get your Proton Mail email if you want to be strict about your information. All right. So as you can see, that's yeah, they're going out to the internet hosting service as well. And you see that right there. This division H and division I of this public law of this adversary is not only dealing with TikTok. This is also dealing with what it say, through the storage and computing resources are provided to an individual organization for the accommodation and maintenance of one or more websites. We're talking about websites. If you have your websites that's hosted on the adversary server, or online services, of which may include file hosting, domain name server hosting, cloud hosting, or virtual private server network. So you know how people want it because of how so much of the privacy of the U.S. citizen is being taken and eroded. People were utilizing these other companies outside the United States for their email, for their domain, to be able to have more privacy and control of their website and things like that. So that public law putting it under the data war, that it was their way to be able to say, Big Brother pulling that stuff back, and so Big Brother can watch. Yeah. All right. Now, freedom of speech ain't free. Freedom of speech ain't free. Now, the act was focusing on a foreign government. The Congress determined adversarial relationship between that foreign government and the United States, and the casual steps between the regulations and the alleged burden of protected speech may impact whether First Amendment scrutiny applies. The justices utilized a stare decisis case and said, to the extent that ByteDance asserted expressive activity occurs abroad, that activity is not protected by the First Amendment. So it's saying because the server is on China, because the data is on China's server, there's no protection of the First Amendment of the data, freedom of speech, freedom of expression. So the users, your freedom of speech and freedom of expression does not apply because you're operating under a foreign adversary server. So that's why they lost that right there. Call to action. Justice reform. Justice reform. There need to be a revoke of Division H and Division I from Public Law 118-50, which protection of your unalienable rights without the cost to the people. This is going to cost the people to the hips, people. This is going to run amok. It's going to cost the people to the hip. It's going to trample on your First Amendment rights. It's going to tap dance on it like the Bojangles. It's going to also create illegal search and seizures through censorship, which also a violation of Hale versus Hinkle. If you look up the law of Hale versus Hinkle, it's going to erode Hale versus Hinkle. And that's why you have to get involved. We have to have people power. We have to have the people power once again, because the United States Service Corporation has run amok. We must have advocacy and activism through support, create community-based organization working towards systematic change. We have to remove this stronghold from these tyrannical senates and House representatives and lobbyists. We have to educate ourselves on policy making and create policy changes. We can do that by the creation of political action committees, the 527 tax exemption organizations, as well as unincorporated associations. We also need to look at creating and submitting bills to stop the utilization of collateral consequences on Americans. And that's on there for a reason. I didn't say U.S. citizens. I said Americans. There's a difference between American and a United States citizen. We're going to get into the weeds of that. Now, tune in every Wednesday, 8 p.m. On Just Another Messenger on YouTube, and also goes live on Facebook. Keep in mind, we're not monetizing on YouTube, so please support the channel, help the channel grow, share, subscribe, and like. Please tell the people about the channel, help the channel grow. Please support the channel on via Cash App at $ at Just Another Messenger. I don't care if it's $1 a week. I don't care if it's 50 cents a week. Help to support the channel, to keep the channel up. I'd like to thank our current sponsors that continue to help along the way. Thank you very much for your support. This has been great. Sometimes I'm sorry I went over an hour. I just wanted to make sure get this information out. This TikTok business joint venture business is going to really do some work on the American people, because it is under a War Act expenditure law. So please, let's get involved, be accounted. Let's just do that. Thank you for your time and energy this evening. I bid you farewell and look forward to seeing you next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.